Hello and welcome to Family Fun and Learning, sponsored by St. Charles Community College. My name is Janelle Myers, and I am a lead teacher at SCC Child Development Center and an adjunct faculty in the area of child care and early education. I have been in the field of education for 18 years now. A lot of that time has been with infants, toddlers, and preschoolers, but I also spent a couple of years teaching first grade. I've taught college classes, I've taught curriculum for preschool teachers, and I've worked with parents as an administrator. And I am so happy today to be talking with you about how we can help our children learn math through fun ways at home. So I gotta start by just saying I love math. I think it is so sad when I hear adults talk about not being able to do math. I believe we all can do math. You know, it is because individuals had a negative experience at some point in their lives that they've come to believe that they're not capable. I believe that if we instill in young children a very high sense of self-efficacy in math, if we refer to them as mathematicians, and we talk to them about their smart mathematical thinking, then we can lay a foundation of positive attitudes toward doing math that honestly can insulate and protect our children from future experiences where they will face challenges in math. Teens who developed a high sense of efficacy in math as children are more likely to persevere through challenges in middle school, high school, and college math classes, and they're less likely to allow those challenges to leave them feeling like they just can't do math. It's really similar to how we go about teaching our children work ethic and perseverance in other areas. It doesn't matter if we're talking about math or something else. We let children know that we believe in their abilities, and we model working through challenges together. Then we celebrate when we finally make it through. You know, I have adult friends who pull out their smartphone with their calculator app anytime they see a number. We want to raise children who are not afraid of using their own brains to do math. This is one of my favorite things about early childhood. Everything we do helps to lay the foundation for future learning. So we start by simply incorporating counting, sorting, estimating, and computation into everyday activities. So I have both some slides and some real life things to share with you. I've got to start with this quote first, though. It's actually from the National Council of Teachers of Mathematics. And they say, because young children develop a disposition for mathematics from their early experiences, opportunities for learning should be positive and supportive. Children must learn to trust their own abilities to make sense of mathematics. So we're going to be positive and supportive and make it fun and interesting. So snack time happens every day. So it's an easy way for parents to incorporate math, and it's relevant, fun, and meaningful for kids. So you have a little dish of snack mix like this. Just encourage your child to sort out all the Cheerios, sort out all the orange ones, set aside the purple bunnies, and then count how many of each there are. Maybe, as the child in this picture has done, line them up to create a virtual graph of the different pieces of the snack mix. This is so easy and simple, but it's really, really important for that foundation of counting, sorting, and graphing skills. So we all got to eat, right? Involving kids in cooking is another fantastic way to help them develop some mathematical thinking. When you're following a recipe together and maybe the half a cup is dirty, we don't have a half a cup measuring cup. Well, what shall we do? We could use the 1/4 cup 2 times, and we can even demonstrate how scooping up a 1/4 cup of flour 1 time and then 2 times makes the 1 cup halfway full. Just being aware of the math in our everyday life and talking through those experiences for children is really, really, really powerful for their learning. set that aside. All right, I have my next prop here is my pizza cutter. So when we cut the pizza in half in front of the children, we talk about, wow, now there are 2 big pieces. But is that going to work for everybody in our family? No, we've got to cut it again. And so when we cut it again, then there's 4 pieces. So we've cut the pizza into fourths. We can, when we're offering a snack, ask the child, do you want 3 apple slices or 4 apple slices? When kids cook with you, you want to talk about the measurements and the fractions. Demonstrate those things. When you're down to the last cookie, you can make it into a math problem of, well, how many people want another cookie? How many cookies do we have? How can we divide up what we have so that everybody can get some? There's math in all of our everyday experiences. I would encourage you to, outside of the kitchen, to think about the math that happens in your home. Anytime you have to pull out a measuring tape, bring your child over so that they can see the numbers on there, so that they can be involved in seeing how this is meaningful and purposeful. You know, if we want to buy a new bookshelf for your room, we have to measure the space that's there. When we're shopping, we have to look on the labels to find out how big it is. And if our space is 36 inches wide, and this shelf that we're looking at is 48 inches wide, will it fit? So we want to bring those meaningful, purposeful opportunities for math. Just make them apparent for children. We also, I mentioned at the start of this that children learn through play. And so as parents, grandparents, caregivers, we want to just be mindful of bringing in opportunities to put some numbers and some counting into their play. Real easy one right here. If you're making hopscotch with masking tape on the carpet or with sidewalk chalk out in the driveway, write those numbers in the spaces. Have your child count how many spaces they go. One of my perennial favorite activities for kids is Play-Doh. And you know, with Play-Doh, we're always rolling out balls and creating cookies. How many cookies have you made? When we do this and we roll out long, long snakes, we can look at not just quantity, but also length and measurement and compare. Which one is longer? Can we seriate items by length into long, longer, longest? Those are actually surprisingly tough skills for very young children. And so practicing those skills with something as fun and engaging as Play-Doh is a fantastic way to work on seriation. I don't know a child around who doesn't enjoy playing with blocks. And so when your child builds a little house, you want to ask them, how many blocks did you use to build that house? How many more will you need to make it as tall as the couch? If I'm going to stack it up, how many blocks tall is my computer, for example? And when we find out, when we make our tower as tall as the item that we're comparing it with, let's count together and find out how many was it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. While we've got our blocks out, of course, another favorite activity is to build towers and knock them down. This is when I like to get out my timer, and we can time ourselves and see how many times can we build a tower, knock it down, build it back up before our timer goes off. So see, it's not rocket science. It's just a matter of thinking about numbers and math as we are doing these things that we do with our kids every single day anyway. If you want to get a little bit more into the teachery type of preschool math games, I have some ideas for that too. I like to make just a very simple number grid, and we can use this over and over and over again. We can count our cereal pieces out onto the number grid. We can put little teddy bear counters or race cars, or you can be like me and collect your little plastic lids, and these are great for counting too. So we just count our lids onto the numbers here. Great counting practice. After you've done that for a while, if you're feeling like, okay, we're starting to get tired of it, one of the last things that I would do is bring some stickers. And then once your child counts the stickers onto the numbers, then you might be ready to recycle it after that. All right, another fantastic, very similar counting activity that I like to do from the kitchen is my muffin tin. And sometimes I'll use those little stickers to label the muffin tins with numbers of how many small items should go in there. And then we count in our lids, or marbles, or pennies, or buttons, or Cheerios, or whatever else it is that we're working with that day. I'm not sure if I told you, I'm a mom of boys. And so in my house we have many cars and vehicles. And these, we can even do math with these too. When you have your gigantic basket of Hot Wheels and vehicles like I have here, one thing that's great to do is have your child sort them by color. All the purple ones over here, all the orange ones over here, or sort them by type. Race cars, construction vehicles, monster trucks, emergency vehicles. And when they sort them, encourage them to create lines of cars. And that creates a graph where you can look easily and see how many more orange cars than purple cars you have. And as your child does that, pose those questions to him or her to get those mathematical thinkers working all the time. All right, some favorite activities that we do in my classroom with the preschoolers that can just as easily be done at home. This one I call the cup number line. And so I have cups that are numbered 1 through 10. And you know what? Because of my filming setup here, I'm not going to be able to show you the whole line of numbers, but you get the idea. And then what I do is I say, while you're not looking, I'm going to hide an object under one of these cups. And then you'll have to guess where it is. So I ask the kids, close your eyes, no peeking. And while you're not looking, I hide the item underneath one of the cups, and then I say, open your eyes. Where do you think it's hiding? And they guess a number. For example, maybe they guess the number 2. And so I say, nope, it was not under the number 2. Now I'll give you a clue. It's under a number that is more than 2. So let's think about it. Is 1 more than 2? No, 1 is less than 2, so it cannot be under the number 1. So we're going to move that to the side. So it has to be a number that is more than 2, so it could be 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, or 10. And then we guess again. Each time we look and see, and then I give a clue using more or less to really help children to develop that concept of more and less, and also recognizing the written numerals on there. With those cups, another thing that I like to play is counters in a cup. And this, again, you can do with your trusty little bowl of cereal or any small items that you have. Coins, buttons, teddy bear counters, little bitty dinosaurs, whatever you have. And we're going to use 10. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay, for this game, you place some of the items in your cup and then you leave some out. So we started out with 10 little heart cereal pieces, and now you can see 2 of them. So how many must be in the cup? It's a game that actually teaches kids to utilize the logic of subtraction and helps them to learn and commit to memory all the different 10 facts, the different ways to make 10. 2 plus 8 equals 10, 1 plus 9 equals 10, etc., etc., etc. 10 facts are such an important concept to give to kids lots and lots and lots and lots of practice about, but I have a couple more games for those. So one is called on and off. So for this, you need a piece of paper and you need your 10 little items. And all you do, so simple, you drop the items so that some fall on the paper, some fall off the paper, and then you count and compare. So here is how it landed. We have 1 on the paper and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 off the paper. And you do that, and then it's great if you can use a dry erase board or just a piece of scrap paper to make a little tally. 1 on and 9 off. And then the next time I do it, it might be 4 on and 6 off. And you continue playing as long as it's enjoyable. Sometimes I'll do the same thing with dinosaurs in my pocket. I'll get 10 little dinosaur plastic figures and I'll hide some of them in my pocket and some of them I show you. And so by looking at the ones that you can see, you have to guess how many are hiding. You can also call a bowl a cave and play bears in the cave. Some are hiding in the cave and some are here up on top of the cave where we can see them. Just the point of these games is that they are fun. That's the great thing about teaching math through games. Math through games is so much more fun. It is intrinsically motivating, whereas worksheets and flashcards really are not. So they are fun and they give lots and lots of repetition the same way that worksheets and flashcards do. But another great thing about games, another reason why they're utilized often in early childhood classrooms, is that they practice social skills too. Sharing, turn-taking, understanding the need for rules, figuring out what to do when a rule is broken, learning to negotiate possible changes to the rules, and learning to cope with the idea that we don't always win. You win some, you lose some, and the fun is just in playing the game. Games can also help children to develop awareness of print. If you are playing a game like Uno or Chutes and Ladders, you're working on math skills, but there are words there too. Even just looking at the word start and finish on board games are fantastic for helping children to develop awareness of print. Oftentimes, games have pieces such as cards that children have to hold on to, dice, spinners, other small pieces that help them to develop their fine motor strength and skills as well. Some great games that you can buy for young children: Chutes and Ladders, Uno, Hi-Ho Cheerio, Don't Spill the Beans, Ants in Your Pants, Candyland, Go Fish. But homemade games are fantastic too. It can be as simple as drawing a little pathway on a poster board or a piece of paper or in the driveway with sidewalk chalk. And then a plain Jane game like this can be whatever kind of game you want it to be. Your boys can take their superhero action figures and roll the dice and move the spaces. Your girls can put their Barbies or their My Little Ponies, their animals, their cars, whatever will get them interested in playing the game. And so when I play games like this with kids, I oftentimes borrow pieces from other games. Your Chutes and Ladders spinner is great because this develops the skill of identifying written numerals. But if you want to focus more on counting, then you'll want to use dice with dots on them, because for that, the children have to count how many dots are on the die. Some other types of games that we like to play with kids include collecting games. Now, when you're playing a collecting game, you might want to use, pardon me here, a collection of materials like my collection of lids here, or some fake golden coins for treasure, something that you have a lot of. And then what you do is you just go around the table, roll your dice, and however many you get on the dice, that's the many that you collect. And you might play a race to 30 or race to 100, or you might have a cup in front of you. And every time you roll the dice and get some, you drop them in your cup and you're racing to fill your cup. That's a collecting game. And you can play that with any kind of materials that will be interesting for your family at home. Another type of game is the aiming game. So obviously, beanbag toss, or a throwing the Velcro ball dart to a target game. Another way that I like to do this, aiming games, is by drawing with chalk out in the driveway some sort of a target, and then you can throw balls, you can throw your Beanie Baby stuffed animals or beanbags into the target to make that a little bit more challenge and increase the math in there. You can have spaces on the target that are worth 1 point, 5 points, or 10 points added up to keep score as your child's skills grow. This next game is not as game-like as the others, but I've found that it can be really intriguing for children who are working with larger two-digit numbers. This is probably most appropriate for kindergarten and first grade, but some preschoolers will get into it too. And it is a build your own 100 chart. So to create something like this, you're going to want to either find or create a grid with 10 rows of 10. Fill in just a few spaces on the grid. The idea is that it goes from 1 to 100. 1 through 10 on the first row, 11 through 20 on the second row, and then this final column is going to be the 10s, 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, 100. And as children fill in the spaces on the board, they begin to see the patterns in our number system. They begin to see that all the numbers in this column end with a 4. 4, 14, 24, 34, 44. They begin to see that all the numbers in this row start with a 6. 61, 62, 63, 64, 65. So there are a couple of ways to do this. Again, if you have been collecting lids for a long time, you can write the numbers on the lids and place them on the board. If you don't have a whole lot of lids, you can just make 2 of these. Write the numbers on one set and then cut it up. This one, I had my first grade son actually write the numbers, and then we cut them out, and then he puts it back together like a puzzle. While we're on the topic of games, one of my favorite games for young children is Uno. There are lots of different versions. When kids first start playing Uno, I take out all of the different cards, the skip and reverse. I find that those just really are very confusing. If we stick with just the number cards and the wild cards, then they can focus on you either match the number or you match the color. Keep it simple. Once they've mastered that, then we can mix things up and add things back in. But it's great just for recognizing numerals and those skills of playing games and taking turns and working together. Regular old playing cards can be used for all kinds of games. You can use regular old playing cards for a variation of Go Fish. Do you have a 7? You can use playing cards for the game of compare. You may have grown up, as I did, calling this game war, but the idea is that you have two players, and they each flip over a card at the same time, and the player who has the larger number gets to keep them both. 8 is greater than 7, so the player with the 8 keeps both cards. Again, this is great for just comparing more and less. So many fun things we can do with games. But I want you to remember that shapes are math too. And I think that the cool thing about shapes is that we see shapes everywhere we go. In fact, just the doors behind me. How many squares can you find? How many rectangles can you find? Can you look around the house and find something that is in the shape of a triangle? Shapes are all around us if we just think about it. And then the last mathematical idea that I want to talk about today is music. You may have heard of the Mozart effect, the idea that listening to classical music during infancy or early childhood can have a positive influence on children's cognitive development, especially their mathematical thinking. And yes, classical music is excellent, but all music is great for fostering mathematical development. Dancing to any kind of music helps children to develop spatial awareness of where their body is, of relative directions, and how their body moves through space. There are lots of children's songs that involve counting by rote. One little duck went out to play over the hills and far away. Mother duck said quack, 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 quack. You probably know the song about the monkeys jumping on the bed. And then there's those 5 green and speckled frogs sat on a hollow log, eating some most delicious bugs. Yum, yum. One jumped into the pool where it was nice and cool. Now there are 4 green speckled frogs. Ribbit, ribbit. And so just remembering to sing those counting songs with our kids and to pause and allow them to supply the missing number so that they're using that mathematical thinking makes it a fantastic learning experience. The last thing that I want to point out about music is that music and math are both comprised completely of patterns. And so if you have your child clapping a pattern or tapping a pattern on a rhythm instrument, they are just developing in their brains an understanding of how patterns work, which is so important in laying the foundation for later mathematical thinking. And so, in closing today, I just want to reiterate again the importance of positive, relevant, everyday early experiences in math, and how those truly can lead to children's future success in math and even possibly to careers in the fields of mathematics, accounting, and engineering. Remember how important you are in helping your child to learn and to be excited about learning. Have fun learning. Bye-bye.